So hello and welcome to this WebWash live stream. I'll take off my headphones because it's not really necessary. Now, it's been a while since I've done a live stream, so I'm pretty pumped to actually do one. I think this is the first one for the year. But anyway, today we're going to be looking at Radix, which is a Drupal theme, and it is a Bootstrap 5 theme. Now, I have covered Radix in the past many times before, but that was the Bootstrap 4 version. This one is the Bootstrap 5 because I've been meaning to look at a bunch of Bootstrap themes, and I want to create a bunch of videos around all the popular ones. And I noticed that Radix was updated. And if you scroll all the way down, and if you want to learn more about the project, just head over to drupal.org/project/Radix. And then if you scroll all the way down, you can see the versions. Now, version 5 is for Bootstrap 5. Version 4 is for Bootstrap 4. And I would assume the 7-3 is for Bootstrap 3. But the one that we are going to focus on is 5. And I do even think that they linked to one of my tutorials here on using Radix, which is pretty good. I just noticed it. So in this live stream, we are going to build a site. Well, we're going to be downloading Radix, sub-theming it, and then creating a few components, such as the carousel. Everyone loves a carousel for some reason. And also the accordion. And then we'll create a view to display articles using the Bootstrap grid. And as we are building out each component, we're going to be doing things slightly differently. So yeah, in Drupal, there's many ways of doing things, and there's many ways of theming things. So we're going to be using a bit of Twig, a bit of paragraphs, and a bit of layout builder. But of course, on a proper Drupal site, you may want to stick to either one of them. Either you stick to layout builder or you stick to paragraphs, and it just depends. But for this demonstration video, we're going to be touching on a few things. So what are we going to build? Well, here is an actual, well, no, that's not it. Here is the actual finished website. And I will put a link to the actual GitHub repo of this site below the video. Now, of course, if you are watching this live, the link's not there, but if you are watching it after the fact, just look below the video. And also, if you are watching it after it's live, there will be time codes below the video and also a link to a tutorial that kind of explains this video. But if you take a look at the screen right here, here is what we're trying to build. So we have a nice carousel up the top here. This is just implementing the Bootstrap Carousel. Then below that, we have our grid of articles. Now, the actual articles themselves are just basically styled. My focus isn't about that. It is the focus of this section is to show you how to implement a grid system using just views, and you can do it without writing any code. Mind you, we are going to be writing a bit of Twig code, so just be aware of that. And then if we scroll down, we can see our accordion all the way down at the bottom, and that is implemented using paragraphs. So without further ado, let's jump in. So what I'll do is I will close a few things. I will pin this because I may need that site just in case things break as I'm building. But if things break, we will debug it together. And also, if you do have any questions, just chuck them in the comment section. All right. So the first thing we need to do, and let me just check my notes here because I always like to check my notes. So the first thing we need to do is download Radix. So go to Radix, and I shouldn't have closed it. Where is it? Welcome to Radix. No, that's not it. Let's go to Radix Drupal. The first thing you need to do is download it. So come to the project page and then just copy over this composer command. And I'll jump into my terminal and I'll just paste it in. And then Composer is going to go do its thing and download it. Now, the other thing you need to do, and this is very important, is download components. So components is a module. Radix is a theme. Now, for some reason, I don't think themes can have dependencies on modules because, as you can see here, I've downloaded Radix, but it hasn't downloaded components. So make sure you download components and install it beforehand, or things will fail terribly. So you want to make sure you download components and also install it. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and let me just bring up, where is my drush command, enable components. So I'm using drush to simply enable components. We can see that it has been installed. Perfect. And the next thing we want to do is enable the actual, well, let me bring this up to the top so you can see that. The next thing we need to do is enable Radix. So this time, instead of using en, there is another command, which is then, which is theme enable. So we can do that and then just type in Radix. Because when we install Radix, to create a sub-theme is very easy. What we need to do is simply run the following command. So let me bring up drush again and paste in this little bit of code. So what this does is we are passing the include option here, and we are pointing it to the Radix theme. Now, you want to make sure that this path is correct, because you may have changed the doc root to something else, such as HTML, public HTML, doc root, or something else, or your Radix theme may not be in a contrib folder. So don't simply just blatantly copy this. Make sure you are pointing it to the correct path. Luckily for me, I've installed Drupal using the Composer Drupal recommended Composer template, or whatever that thing is. And so Composer adds Radix into this path. And then you can see here we have Radix :create, and then we have here www underscore, you can just see it, then Radix. Then we hit enter, and it's going to go ahead and create our sub theme. So the best thing about this is that we don't have to copy paste a bunch of folders and do find and replace like we do in some other themes. So now if I jump over to PHP Storm, which is my editor of choice, really should have closed all of these, and then go to web themes, we can see contrib with Radix, which is great. And then we have here custom with WW, and then we have Radix right here. All right, now if we jump over to our site, let's jump over and let's close this and close that. And if we refresh, what's going to happen? Well, nothing at this point, because we haven't set Radix as our default theme. So let's go into appearance, and we should see, well, we have installed Radix, but we haven't installed our sub theme. So let's install and set as default. And if we go back, all right, we have a few things here. All right. Okay. So now comes the fun part. Okay. So far at this point, all we have done is downloaded the theme, sub-themed it, and installed it. Now, one thing to be aware of is that Radix is a more of an advanced theme. And what I mean by that is it doesn't pull in Bootstrap via a CDN. You need to compile it using, I think you run Gulp or something. I'm not exactly sure what. No, I think it uses Laravel mixin to compile things. So out of the box, it's going to look broken. And then if you look at the console, you'll see that it's complaining that it's not loading things up. And that is because we need to go ahead and compile things. All right, so now what you want to do is go into your terminal, and let's go into our theme. So that's web, what is it? Themes, custom, Radix. All right, now I use NVM, which is a node version package manager to manage all my node packages. And if I go NVM list, I believe, yeah, I'm using version 18, which is great. So now all we need to do is type in npm install and give this, I don't know, a few seconds, No, it's probably fast. No, it's probably slower than actual Composer. And then, yep, go make yourself a coffee. Once it's downloaded, it's pretty quick, but just give it a bit of time. All right, so we have our first comment here. All right, hello. Okay, what version of Node is needed? Had a problem with Radix today. Well, the version I'm using is version 18. So, as I mentioned, what is it here? NVM list. I'm using 18.16.1, which seems to work. Okay, so we've downloaded all of that. Now, at this point, it's still not working. So what we need to do is, well, I need to run over and set up my proxy. So another thing that it does, you can see here. So if you go to webpack.mix, here's all the settings for it. But another thing that it does, where is it? It is under config. Here we go. So it actually uses that proxy system where it will simply auto refresh things. And so we need to change our path here. And I do know that my path, let me go back here, is this. So I'll change it to that. And the last thing we need to do is simply run npm run watch. And what we can do is come back into our terminal. Let me bring that to the top. npm run watch. Let me see which browser it's going to open up with, because I want it to open up in... No, don't want it in Chrome because I'm not presenting in that one. I am presenting here. All right, so come along in here. Now, it is going to complain about this HTTPS because it's not signed correctly, because it is just a local thing. So don't worry, that's just my local setup. All right. So right now, it has gone ahead and compiled Bootstrap for us. Now, it is passing things through this proxy, but if I come over here and refresh, we should get a working version of Bootstrap. If I view source, should be able to see everything compiled. Here we go. Let me zoom in a little more. You can see now everything's being compiled here, which is great. And if I scroll down to the bottom, there should be, where is it? Here we go. The main.script, and this is pretty much the whole Bootstrap files and things like that. JavaScript files, sorry, have been compiled. Perfect. All right. Now, if we make a change in our SAS files, things will automatically change. But before we jump into things, we need to do one thing. And this is a thing that always seems to happen with a bunch of themes. You need to configure the blocks correctly, especially with Bootstrap, or you don't get the mobile menus working correctly. So let's jump over. Let me bring up, well, I've got my little notes here, but I'll show you exactly what you need to do. Because if you take a look here, this does kind of look broken. Well, it doesn't kind of look broken. It is broken. Like, it's not going to resize nicely. You can see here, this stuff's not going to resize nicely. So yeah, just be aware of that. You need to configure the blocks. All right, let's close this. So what we're going to do is go into structure, block layout, and this is always fun. You can see that all of the blocks have just been thrown into navbar branding. And I do believe that the way this is going to work is you just have to do it manually, and it kind of sucks, but that's what has to be done. All right, cool. So footer, no, RSS feed goes into footer, powered by Drupal goes into footer. That is fine. All right, cool. Main content is in content. Site branding is always up the top here. And then we have main navigation. Where is that? Main navigation is in navbar left. User account is in navbar right. And then everything else. So status message is in header. breadcrumbs is in, where is breadcrumbs? Is in header. Page title is in header. Now, of course, on your Radix site, you may want to adjust where these blocks are, but after playing around with it, this is the best setup that I've figured out so far. Help is in header. Pretty much the rest of it is in header. Primary tabs, again, header. Secondary tabs, header. Wait, no. Actually, search, we don't really need that. Secondary tabs in header. Primary actions, and that's in header as well. Let's just save the block so we don't accidentally lose our configuration. Let's remove the search. I don't need it in this example. And what you want to do is make sure that things... see, I don't really know exactly. Primary actions, admin actions, is that above secondary tab? Well, we can adjust it later. The most important thing for the navigation to work correctly on mobile is that you have site branding on navbar branding, and then you have navbar left as your main navigation, and then you have user account as the navbar right, and then everything kind of works pretty well. Perfect. Then if we go back here, refresh, you can see things are looking a bit nicer. And then if we, well, actually, let's refresh this one. Perfect. Come along in here. Resize it. Then our actual drop-down menu is working correctly. Brilliant. Okay. So that is pretty much it from a Drupal standpoint. Now we are ready to start theming it. All right. Now, before we jump into things, what we need to do is, well, let's have a look at the actual theme itself, because it does implement a few, well, the theme has a few opinions. All right. First of all, most of the components, and when I say components, a lot of the Twig templates are controlled using the components module. And that's why we had to download and install it. And what the components module allows you to do is, instead of things just being Twig, this is my understanding, instead of things being just Twig templates, a component is separate from a actual theme. So you can ship a Twig component with, if you have a look in here, there's an actual example. So it's an easy way of shipping a Twig template, a Sass file, and also a JavaScript file. So components make it easy to create simple components with those three things, and then you could add it into a custom module, and then you can kind of ship them around. And if you take a look at Radix, you'll see here under source components, you'll see all of these components. Now, most of them are just Twig templates. And then if you take a look at the actual templates directory, now this is what Drupal calls. Let's take a look at, say, block. If you want to override the block template, which we will soon, you come along in here, you go to templates. Now Drupal loads up this Twig template. You come here, and then you notice that, oh, it's actually including this component. Now this component is up here. It is this one. So let me just close all these. It can be a little confusing. It is this component right here. So the benefit of this is, even here, we could, in our templates, we could copy over the block template and then point it to this component. Now, I've personally never really used a components module in a large production site, but it's there. You can use it. All right, so that is Radix. Let's go back to our sub theme. And what we're going to do is take a look at the Sass, because that's where you would spend a lot of time. In this video live stream, we're not going to be writing, I don't think we're going to write any Sass code, because we can do it all through Bootstrap. But of course, on a decent size, custom site, you are going to write some CSS/Sass code. So if you have a look in here, you have your main So this is your, I believe this is the main one that gets generated. And then you have all of your custom Bootstrap components here. And then in it is where you want to add in all of your custom stuff. Or actually, no, we will be overriding the Sass because we are going to implement a Bootswatch theme. So we are going to be writing a bit of Sass. So if you want to modify a lot of these stuff, just come along in here. And yeah, it is pretty much self-explanatory, but as I mentioned, this is an advanced theme. So I do recommend that you have an understanding of how Bootstrap works, and also that you have worked with Bootstrap in the past where you have loaded it from an NPM package and not just run it from a CDN, because you have to make sure that you compile a whole bunch of stuff. And also you want to have experience using Sass as well. Because here you can see you can modify a bunch of stuff. And the other benefit of using Radix compared to just say another theme, especially if you're pulling in via a CDN, is that you can pick and choose the exact components that you want, the exact Bootstrap components that you want from here. So if you want your site to be lean and mean and not, download a whole bunch of CSS files, because if we take a look here, all right, let's take a look actually, I'm curious. We come along in here, let's have a look at the actual network. So this one down at the bottom here, wait, can I filter? Okay, cool. Main, all right. The main.style.css is, you can see here, it's just under 300K. Of course, if it's gzipped and things like that, you can get it lower, but it is pretty chunky. It's the same for, let's look at the JavaScript. All right, yeah, you can see the JavaScript here as well is just under 350 kilobytes. So if you really want to control what components are displayed, you can do that by simply adding or removing things from here. So that gives you all the flexibility that you want. Again, as I mentioned, this is an advanced theme, so you will have to do a bit of, actual development. All right. Now, the first bit of work that we're going to do in our theme is implement a nice look and feel. Because if you take a look here, compare it to this site. This has a nice little background color. It's got different colors and things like that. And what I am using is this website called Bootswatch, which I've covered in the past before on a whole bunch of other videos. And what this site is that it gives you a free color palette, or Bootswatch, or a swatch, like a color palette. And if you come along in here, and this is the one that we're going to be using called Flatly, but if you actually go to the website, you can see a whole bunch of options here, and you can download them and implement them in various ways. Now, Bootswatch has been around for ages. I remember implementing it on a Bootstrap 3 site, and so I was surprised that it was still around when I was working on preparing this video. So what we're going to do is implement this Flatly one because I really do like it, and you can see here it's got a few nice colors, looking good, looking nice and simple. And the first thing we'll need to do is download. So where is it? All right. Let's download let me bring this up 1 second. All right. What we're going to do is I'll bring this up in my Visual Studio Code. You can see here, we have a variable list. Okay, so what we're going to do is copy this into base, where is it? Variables, right here. And paste that in. That's the first part. Then what we need to do is come back here, download this underscore Bootswatch.sass. Let me open that up in VS Code. And what you want to do is create that file and add it to your Radix theme. So we can add that anywhere. Let's just chuck it in here. Why not? So that'll be underscore not strap, Bootswatch.css, and paste that in. And then here, let's add in, where would we want to add this? Let's add it in here. Import Bootswatch. All right, perfect. And now it is going to go ahead and I believe, let's see, wait, do I even have this set up? Now, another thing to be aware of is that it does do some ESLint, and you can see that it does complain about errors, but they're perfectly fine. Things still work. All right, so you can see colors have kind of changed. You can see here, colors have changed. Now, the other thing we need to do, slightly, the other thing we need to do is modify a few things in the Twig templates. And this is where we actually do have a bit of fun modifying stuff. All right. So if we inspect it and we inspect the navbar, what we need to do is make changes to the navbar. Okay. So what we need to do is just adjust the markup that is generated here. Now, if we come along in here, let me close all of this and try and figure out which template is which, it can get a bit difficult to kind of figure out which template is which. Now, Drupal does have the ability to show you which template file is getting loaded. So if you go into configuration, development settings, click on Twig development, and also let's check do not cache markup. Yes, things will be a little slow, but it won't cache the markup, which is important for us. Now, this is a new version, I believe, in Drupal 10. Before you had to modify stuff in the settings, but now this is all available through the backend, which is pretty cool. Come along in here, and then, well, let's go back to the home page, refresh, do a hard refresh, and now you should see all of these, comments getting thrown in. And all of this tells you exactly what what Twig template is getting loaded. So if we take a look here and click on here, we should see exactly which one is getting loaded. So we can see, okay, themes. Well, let me zoom that in a little bit so you can actually see that. Sorry about that. Let me just move this in a bit more. Probably a bit more. Need to zoom it in. Let's close that off. All right. Bit more. All right. So here you can see the output themes, contrib, Radix, and then it's the block system. The one that we want, where was it up here? It is loading up dub Radix /templates /page. So if we come along in here, in our sub theme, you will see templates, page.html, .twig, and then you can see that it's loading up a component, which is in the Radix theme. And then if we go back into Radix, and this is one thing you're going to notice with the sub theme, you are jumping around a lot of folders, because you jump into a template, it's pointing to a component, or you go into that component and then you need to adjust a few things. So there is a bit of setup involved. So if we come along in here, source component page, the page, yep. You can see here that header is, I do know it is header. So then if we come into Radix section header, it is then loading up navbar, and then navbar, where is it? Is in here, navbar right here. All right. So we do need to adjust a few things here. All right, just to make sure. So things like we do need to pass in. Where is it? I'm just in here. Okay, yeah, we do need to pass a few things here. All right, so I might as well just go ahead and do it, because you are jumping around a few things. But again, there should be a GitHub repo, a link to a GitHub repo below this video. Of course, it's not going to be available while I'm doing this live, but after the fact, it will be available. Now, what we need to do is adjust a few things, such as passing a data parameter here. All right, so let's go ahead and copy over this navbar. So what I'll do is the components navbar. So I'll come along in here. The components, what is it? Navbar. And then I'll paste it in there. Perfect. That's the first one. We also need to copy over page and also sections and header. And what I'll try and do is I'll keep the folder structure consistent. Well, no, actually, it's just that. So come along in here, page, pop that in there. And that's another thing you want to do is when you are copying over components, keep it in the same structure. It just makes life a lot easier when you have to look at it in the future. All right. Because remember, theme. So from a Drupal standpoint, Drupal loads up page. Then in page, then page is calling the header section. Then header section is calling the navbar. And we finally get to the things here. All right. So what we need to do is copy over the navbar, which we have done. And then we want to add in this color component. So let's go all the way here and add in this attribute. So that will be data BS theme. And then we'll add in color. Because if you take a look here, we are passing in the actual color, which will be, I think, dark or light. And now in Bootstrap 5.2, because this is using, I think, 5.2, not 5.3, you need to pass in for the actual different colored navbar to work, you need to pass in this data attribute. So that is there. The other thing you want to do then is in pages, I believe, you want to now tell it to pull in, and this is important, actually point it to your theme, because we could copy everything across, but it's still pointing to the Radix component, not our one. Come along in here, change this one. It's pointing there. Let's also change, yes, background needs to be primary. And let's make sure that it's pointing to there. That's pointing to there, and then that is it. I do believe that is probably it. So, oh, no. Change this one to your theme. All right, let's start from the top down. Drupal loads up page.html.twig, which is pointing to our subtheme page component, which is then pointing to our subtheme's header component, which is then pointing to our subtheme navbar component. And the two and the changes that we have done. So the only change we have done really is change the utility classes to BG primary. And then if we go into navbar, after all is said and done, we've added in this component right here, this data attribute. And let me move over my VS Code and just verify that that is correct, because I do have the other code loaded up just to make sure that things are working. Yeah. Anyway, if it doesn't work, we will figure it out. Oh, no. The other thing we need to do, change color to dark. Because then what's going to happen is we will get this navbar right here. This one right here. All right, now you can see things have kind of died here. And the reason for that is because we need to, let me open up a new terminal. What is it? Radix. Yep, Radix. Build, and then rebuild the cache. Perfect. Now if we refresh, all right. Cool. All right, things are now looking a lot better. All right. Now, if for example, because I'm sure people will do this and I'll probably do it many times because it's very easy to forget. If you accidentally leave that pointing to the Radix theme, you'll be like, well, why isn't it working? Okay, and the reason for that is because you need to change this one to Radix. All right, we change that one. Oh, you can see it's already there. Yep, all right, perfect. And now, if you take a look at the drop-downs are this nice color, same as here. And if we need to make sure everything is good, let's just refresh that and resize this. Yep, looking good, looking good. All right, and this drop down is looking correct. All right, cool, perfect. All right, so that is the first part of our build. We have now implemented a nice custom look and feel for our Bootstrap theme because nothing screams Bootstrap, such as the actual standard look and feel of Bootstrap. But this still kind of looks Bootstrap-y, if you call it that. But hey, it's now looking a bit better. And I do recommend that, hey, if you want a basic template for your Bootstrap site, check out Bootswatch, because at the end of the day, you can go ahead and modify as much as you want. And you do have all of these other options. And the good thing is that if you do hover over these components, they actually give you the markup required to generate it. Now, of course, implementing this in like some type of CMS like Drupal or even WordPress can be a bit of a pain because you have a lot of layout and templates and things like that. But if you're using like a front-end framework such as Next.js, you can go ahead and implement this pretty easily. And I'm sure there's probably a NPM package for Bootswatch to implement that directly as a React component or something. I don't know. Even if you scroll down, you can see a few options here. They give you examples they can just copy over, which is actually pretty cool. All right. So the next component that we are going to build, well, I would say this is the first component, is the carousel. So let me open up the carousel because people love carousels. There's nothing more common than being asked for a nice big carousel on the home page. So here is a carousel that we're going to implement. If you go to the Bootstrap site, you will see a lot of examples. You have one with like a basic example. You have another one with like just controls. And you also have another one with just the buttons, but we are going to implement everything. The buttons, the description, the title, everything, including the kitchen sink, because, hey, slideshows are cool. And what we're going to do is implement this slideshow. Now, we need to do a bit of Drupal site building. So how would you implement this from content? So here's a question for you. How would you implement this? Because I want to take a sip of water because I've got a ticklish throat. How would you implement this in Drupal, especially from a content model standpoint? Well, the way we are going to implement it, now you can of course implement it in multiple ways. The way we're going to implement it is by using a custom block type and also paragraphs. We're going to mix things up. Now, lately, paragraphs has been getting a bad rap amongst people. I feel like always in the Drupal Slack, there's always somebody saying that, paragraphs is terrible the way it handles revisions and things like that. That when you get to a certain amount of content, you're dealing with a lot of data. Yeah. So, but I like paragraphs. And we have a comment, add to hero section. Oh, well, yeah, you can also add blocks to sections as well. Well, the reason why I want to implement it using blocks, first of all, is that we can then use Layout Builder. And then we can implement things into, we can then add the carousel into Layout Builder, but then you can also implement just a standard block and then add your carousel wherever you want. But you could also, because it is a block, a paragraph, you could also, if you had enough time, which we're not going to cover in this video, you can implement everything using paragraphs, depending on your content model, if everything is a paragraph or if everything is a block type and things like that. All right, so the first thing we need to do is go ahead and implement do some site building. All right, so let's go into our Drupal site. Let me close that. Are these the same? Yeah, they're the same tabs. All right, don't need that. All right, let me just refresh that. The first thing we're going to do is go to block types. And this one will be called, what is it? Carousel. I can never spell carousel correctly. Is that it? Yes, it is. And then click on save. And the other thing we need to do is download paragraphs. There we go. Didn't even do that. So if I type this in, come along in here, copy the composer command. It's just much quicker than for me to type it. And let's download it. Composer is much faster these days. Maybe it's cached locally, I don't know, but ever since Composer 2, things are brilliant. Awesome. Let's open up a new tab, type in paragraphs. And the other thing while we're here is we'll also install Media Library, manage our images. Give that a second or two. It's going to do a bunch of translation stuff and we are done. All right, so now let's go ahead and implement our paragraph type. So go into structure and then paragraph types. Of course, you will only see this if the paragraph module has been installed. So make sure you install it. Come along in here, click on add paragraph type, and this one we'll call carousel item. Click on save and manage fields. And the 3 fields that we're going to create is an image field. Well, it's going to be a media field, but it'll be called image, a title and caption field. The first one we'll create is the image field. We do not want to use the actual image field. You want to use the media field because everything's moving over to media. And the benefit of using a media field is that when you upload an image to a media field, you can reuse that image. So just use the media field for everything now. You want to avoid using image as much as possible, the actual image field. And I'll call this one image because it is always going to be an image. Let's make it required. And then let's select image as our media type. Click on add new field again. This time select text plain. And we'll call this one title. Make it required. And last but not least, text plain long, I believe. Did I add that? Text plain long? Yep. And we'll call this one caption. And this one's the caption. All right, perfect. Manage form display. Yeah, we'll just leave everything as it is. Looks all right. And what I'll do is go here. Let me just hide these. We will adjust the actual markup for the paragraph. That is fine. And go back here. All right, now what we need to do is go into our block type, go manage fields. Let's remove body. Am I on carousel? Yeah, I am. Let's remove body because that's just automatically added. We don't really need it. So let's just remove it. Then click on add new field. And from the drop down, select paragraph and we'll call this one carousel items. Okay. And we'll select carousel item. That's the only one available. Of course, it will only display that one. And then if we go to manage form display, what I want to do is remove this default one. So it doesn't select it by default because the reason why I do that is if you have a required field on the paragraph type and you just want to create a placeholder carousel block without actually creating the carousel items, it's going to validate and ask you to add in a title or something. So that's one thing I've learned over the years, because editors like to just create placeholders for a lot of things. Let's just leave everything as it is. Well, we'll tweak this. We'll tweak this later on. Let's just leave it. Click on save. And now if we go to open up a new tab, close a bunch of these. And if we go to blocks, click on carousel. For this one, article carousel, you can see here we have our carousel items. And then if you click on add carousel item, you can see your image, title, and caption. Now, of course, if you click on save now, it's going to complain about it. All right, cool. Let's now add in a few images. And what I'll do is I will grab my list of images that I've added in. Well, that I've got test ones. Let me chuck in a few of these. Now, let me just quickly create a bunch of stuff. One item, one caption, add in another. Carousel item. Now, the annoying thing about live streams is that you have to see me do all of this. Normally, if this video was a video, it would just be edited out. Anyway, it is live. All right, add another media item. Let's chuck this one in there. Item 3. And if I chuck this one in there, item 3, caption, and hit save, we have our carousels. All right, cool. Now everything's in there. And as I mentioned, the benefit of using the media field is if you go into media up the top here, you can see the media items right here. So you can then simply reuse these items, which makes life a lot easier if you want to reorder things and also reuse things. Okay, so as I mentioned, use the media module as much as possible. All right, let's go back to our blocks. And what I want to do is just a bit more site building. So that's not it. Let's go to structure, paragraph types, manage fields, and then manage display. And instead of all of this just being loaded up like here, let's enable the preview view mode, because what we can then do, we'll come to preview here. Let's set this to default, that's fine. And we'll set this to inline and also above. Then come along in our block type. And now this is where the paragraph field is set up. We simply change the closed mode to preview, and let's set the edit mode by default to be closed. Because what this does is that instead of seeing all of these items straight away, and you can imagine if you have, a paragraph field with 10 odd paragraphs or even 20, which is not uncommon, it can get a bit cumbersome to have everything just opened up. And you can see it takes ages to scroll down. Now, if we refresh, things are cleaned up a little better. And of course, if you want to take things one step further, you could essentially change this to something smaller. So let's actually do that. Oh, here we go. Change it to thumbnail. And let's change it to, medium, 220 by 220. Hit save. Now, if we refresh, it's even smaller. And of course, if you want to take things one step further, you could float things and do whatever you want. But hey, I haven't got time for that right now in this video. But you can see it just makes things a lot easier. And also it makes it easier to just reorder things as well. But paragraphs does have a whole bunch of pretty cool things. You can do this type of stuff. Some pretty funky paragraph reordering, dragging, and things like that. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of things you can do with paragraphs. Okay, so Now that we have that sorted out, now what we need to do is theme it all and actually make it look pretty. Because if I add this, let's actually add the block to a layout. So let's add it to the header. Come in here, article carousel, add this in, add that to the top, click on save, and we have our stuff right here. All right, here it is. Perfect. All right, now let's go ahead and implement all of this. So what we're going to do is, first of all, have a look and see which template is getting loaded. Because if I take a look here, where is this? Where is this? We can see that it is, that's not it. Scroll up. We scroll up a bit more. All right. It is loading up the block twig. And I do believe that is it, region and the block twig. All right, cool. So what we need to do is, let me grab, let's go back in here, and we need to grab this HTML. And what we'll do is, first of all, stick to the standard convention that Radix has given us, and we're going to create a component. So let's, no, actually, what are we doing? Create a folder called carousel. Carousel. Yep, spelled that right. And well, with PHP Storm, you can do this type of stuff. Carousel.twig, and it will automatically create the folder and everything else. All right. And what I want to do is I will copy this bit of code and I'll chuck it in. And let's just, actually, it's annoying that it doesn't have that. What I want to do, where is it? Carousel caption example, edit. Here we go. This way we actually get everything that I want. Because what I want to do, and this is how I implement things in Drupal, I first want to make sure that templates are overriding correctly, because there's nothing more annoying than doing all this work and then wondering why it's not working, and you realize that you're accidentally pointing to the wrong thing and Drupal isn't actually picking up the new template. So whenever you're doing front-end work, always make sure that Drupal is picking up the right bit of code, because you don't want to spend 2 hours debugging a bit of code that's not even getting loaded up. It's happened to me many times before. So let's implement that. Come along in here. Let's clear the cache. And if I then come back here, over here, and load it up, we should have a working, well, actually, no, it's not going to work because we have to do a few things. Okay. What we need to do is load up. See, even I forget when things are getting loaded up. We first need to override the template. So what we need to do is come over here and let's copy over this block template. And what I'm going to do is paste it. Well, we do have this example, but we're just going to leave this one as it is. Paste this one here, but what we need to do is grab the actual twig suggestion. And this is important, or it's not going to load it up. Now, where is that? We'll find it. We'll find it. Loading block. All right, cool. And for some reason, Firefox doesn't display correctly, but what we need to do is it will be twig component, this one. Okay. So what Drupal does is that Drupal does kind of like a discovery on your templates, and it first starts at block, and then if block is implemented, and then it starts at block and tries to find all of these files, And so, well, actually, I think we'll start the other way around. It will be specific and then slowly make its way until it finds a template. So if we put this in, this means that this block layout, this block twig template will only be loaded for the carousel. Let's copy that across. And I will change that to that. Let me just chuck in a bit of code here and make sure that it's actually getting loaded up. Clear the cache as usual. All right, and we can see here that it is getting loaded. Perfect. Exactly what I wanted. And if we take a look, not there. And where is it? Where is it? And you can see here that you see the X next to our twig carousel template. All right, perfect. That is getting loaded up. All right, let's go back here. Things are working, which is absolutely great. Now, what we need to do is, before we move on, we need to now load up our actual carousel component. Now, we could simply just copy paste everything in here. And so we could do that. So if you really wanted to, oh, actually, what am I doing here? This isn't correct. Why is this here? Actually, let's fix it up. All right, see, already found a bug. That is not correct. Is that loading up from components? Yeah, no, that's not correct. I want that to be loaded up from there. Take a look. Let's take a look. Build block. All right, block template. All right, cool. All right, so what we're going to do now is load up the component. So to do that, what we could do, come along in here, and then just type in the following. Let me make sure this is working. So include, one autocomplete, include Radix Carousel, and then we have carousel. And that should do the trick. Refresh that. And then if we come along in here and refresh, I'm not going to find it. Now, why is that? Because I spelled something wrong, didn't I? Oh, didn't put a .twig at the end. Come along in here. And then here. All right, perfect. So you can see that our hard-coded carousel is getting displayed below. Okay. Now, we need to implement some twig magic. And what we're going to do now is, if we take a look at this twig component, go all the way up here. Where is it? Right here. Cool. No, that's not it. Go here, blocks, and block twig. Now, it's important that we keep a lot of this block markup here, because especially if you're using the layout builder injects a lot of classes on these elements, so that you can click and drag and when you hover over things. So it's important that we still have it looking like a block from a markup standpoint. We can't just override the block HTML to look purely like a carousel. Okay, so we need to add in still some Drupal markup. And what Twig allows you to do is that here you can see we have this content block. So what we can do is we can override just this component over here. Now, this is a kind of like an intermediate Twig feature. So if you want to learn more about it, just search for embedding Twig components. But if you search for components here, I think if you search for embed, you will see examples. So here, in this header, you are simply implementing these branding blocks that are loaded within the actual navbar twig. So if you go into navbar twig, you should see branding left and right, and you can kind of like load it up and override it. So that's a nice way of simply overriding other templates without having to copy paste the same thing over and over and over again. Because if we couldn't do that, we'd have to copy all of this block code, chuck it into ours, chuck it into here, and then it just gets pretty messy. So what we're going to do is the first thing we need to do is embed. Oh, sorry. Embed. And we're still going to keep all of that, but what I want to do is type in, where is it? Block content. Can't see exactly because the mic's right in front of me. What is it? And block. And then we add this item in here. So that means that we are now overriding the block content, which is all of this, with our twig markup. I don't think I need to reload, but then if I do that, all right, end of template. All right, things have a quick look here. End block, just have to make sure that everything is looking good. Oh, sorry, end embed. End embed. There's always a few things. All right, so now you can see all of our other code has been now spat out, and we're just loading up our actual twig template. And the reason for that is that we have simply overridden our whole content block, because by default, all of our fields from our managed form display are passed through this content block. All right. Now, the other thing we need to do, because we need to actually pass this variable into our carousel component. What we're going to do is go back to our carousel, and we're going to pass a component, pass a variable over to it. So width, then this one is content. That's it. Because content will then be passed, the content variable will then pass over content, so that now we should have access to the content variable within here. Now, nothing should happen at this point. It is going to complain about a few things. All right, let's just fix this up. Oh, yes. Actually, let's go back. All right. So let's fix it. Okay, let's go back. Go. Content. All right, cool. And now, if we pop over to our carousel, and I believe it is dump content, we should see a variable right here. Perfect. All right, that is working. If we come along here and remove it, let's put that in. Of course, it's just going to be something empty. All right. All right. So this is a bit of a scaffolding that is required. All right. Now we can go ahead and implement a bunch of stuff. I'm just having a quick look at everything. Everything is looking good. All right, cool. All right. So I'm going to go through this pretty quick. And if you want to look at the code, then look at the code after the fact. I do apologize. There's going to be a bit of copying and pasting. I know a lot of people complain about, people just pasting in a lot of stuff in these type of video tutorials, but there is a fair bit of code, and I don't think you want to see me just type it all. So the first thing I'm going to do is do a find and replace, because this ID is used in a few places. You can see here, used here, and here. And this needs to be unique. So what I want to do, replace that with the following. Let me just do a replace all. And what this is that means that the ID of the carousel will be unique no matter what, because we are using the actual block ID. The block ID should be unique on each site. It's not a UUID, it is just an actual ID. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever it is. That's the first. That is the first part. Now, the other part we need to do, let's just start stuff up and make sure things are looking. Well, no, let's start off with this component. Well, I'm trying to think. No, we'll stick with this. Now, the next part we need to do is sort out this inner component, because this is where a lot of the magic happens. So let me just break this up. So these indicators are the actual indicators here. All right, right here. So they need to be loaded depending on how many items you have. And then we have the actual image, title, and thumb and caption here. So the buttons, check, make sure. And so right. Oh yeah, the other thing we need to do is change this carousel right to be actual carousel. This will turn it on by default. And I'll also put in, just to add a bit of margin, MB5. That just pushes stuff down. All right. Now, this inner carousel, what we're going to do is we are going to copy over a bit of code. And I'll show you what that is. And if we come along in here, we are going to be, we're going to load up the carousel items, because you'll see here, the first one needs to have active, and then the rest of it will be handled by the actual paragraph. Let me close this. And the other thing we need to do is we need to install one extra module, because this is a pretty cool module. This will load up the paragraph entity and simply render it. But this will only work if you have Twig, sorry, yeah, no, Twig tweaks. Say that 10 times. Twig tweaks is a module which I highly recommend if you are going to be using Twig everywhere. And that just gives you a whole bunch of like nice little helper filters and functions within Twig to just load up random things without having to travel across stuff. And it just saves you from writing a ton of code. Because to implement a lot of this stuff without using it would have been like an extra 10 lines of code. And it's like, I can just install one module, which I do recommend. And you can easily just have a single line of code. So I do highly recommend that you use it. Let's go back here. Let's copy this across. And let's install it. And give that a second to install. Well, let's install, what's it called? It is called Twig Week. All right, that is installed. And let's just do a cache rebuild, because, you know, that fixes up most of your life's problems, if only. All right, so that is all ready to go. So we've done that. Where is my build document? All right. Let's come back in here. So this is getting loaded up. The next thing we need to do is sort out these buttons up the top here. So again, copy over this bit of code. And what we are doing is that it is simply looping and generating all these buttons. And then we are adding in some custom stuff, such as the label. So I do believe we have the actual label getting loaded in. Perfect. And then also the active component, data attribute, and also the active class as well. You can see here, it's simply looping through the carousel items. It's looping through them, setting the active class, and then it is just setting the active item right here as well. All right, I do believe that is pretty much from that part. And last but not least, what you want to do is right down at the bottom. I'm going to chuck this right down at the bottom. You want to still output the content variable, but what we're going to do is tell it not to display the carousel items because we are already handling that ourselves. And the reason for that is cache tags and also the cache context are still passed. And I don't know if this is an issue with Drupal 10, but I know in Drupal 8 and 9 that if you don't actually return this content variable, then Drupal can't bubble up the cache tags, which means you could have issues with entities and render cache caching issues and things like that. Yeah, you're going to have a lot of problems if you don't sort out if you don't make sure that the cache tags are getting passed through. Because I can tell you from personal experience, I deal with, even to this day, I deal with cache tag related issues or rendered elements not getting invalidated correctly purely because we modified a bit of HTML and we didn't pass the correct cache tags through. And so, yeah, you want to make sure that this is passed, and also that you want to just say without so that it doesn't display the actual carousel items. You could remove the fields from the manage form display, but I like it this way just in case somebody chucks it in. All right. So from this point of view, I do think it's kind of ready to go. We now need to implement the paragraph item. So if we refresh, let's see what happens if we refresh. Oh, is it going to explode? No. Okay. Kind of works. All right. I don't want to look at it right now. Wait, I'm trying to think. Is there anything else I need to do? Well, actually, no. It's going to be a fun debugging experience. You can actually watch me debug and get stressed out if things aren't working. Anyway, let's have a bit of fun with it, eh? All right, so the last thing we need to do is implement the power. Oh no, you can actually see it is working. It is working, moving. Oh, yeah, it's working, it's working, it's working. All right, what we need to do now is implement the paragraph. All right, so, well, we have implemented the paragraph. We need to override the actual markup. So let me go up. No. All right, cool, this one is. No, that's not it. Paragraphs, where is paragraphs? Paragraphs. All right, this one's it. All right, so what we need to do is copy this across. Now, what I normally like to do is open up. Where was that? I saw that. .twig.template. All right, cool. Copy this across. And come into templates. Am I in the right theme? Yes, I am, because sometimes I can forget which theme I'm in. For this one, paragraph. Paste it in. But hang on. Let's copy over this one, because we only want this template to be loaded up on the carousel item. I have already seen. Okay. I think I'm going to have to change. I think there should be an S in that items. Doesn't matter. We will adjust it accordingly. All right, carousel item. All right, perfect. All right, so that is that. Everything's looking good. Now, if we come along in here, refresh, and let's just refresh this, make sure our paragraph is getting loaded up. It is perfect. All right, cool. Getting loaded up, exactly what we want. And that is, all right, done. All right, now the next, all right, so the first thing we need to do is come along in here. And I am looking at paragraphs. Let's just remove content. We don't really need content. Let me just double check the offer here. I'm not certain it's going to work. Let's have a quick look. No, that's it. Class items. Okay, cool. All right, that's fine. Let's just leave it. Okay, so let's really fix this. Well, let's really modify this one, okay? So what I'll do is I will make sure I'm in the right template, remove this. Now, because we are overriding this just for our specific carousel item paragraph type, I know we're not going to be adding it anywhere, so we don't really need to deal with that type of like just a standard paragraph markup. But what I'll do is I will first copy over a few things. So we first want to pull in the actual image. So let me copy over this bit of code. And what we are doing here is we are loading up. So first we are getting the URI of our actual image. Now you want to make sure that your field name is field_image, or this won't work. Field_media_image is the default image, field name, so we don't have to worry about that. But all we are doing here is simply grabbing the image URI and then first of all, grabbing the file URI and then setting that as a variable. Now, you want to make sure you are using Twig tweak for this or it won't work. And again, this is where the module is very beneficial. And then we're simply making sure that the variable's not null, passing it through, and then it is simply adding in this resized. So we're using a wide image style and then adding the image style there, and also we're adding in the alt text right here. So if we go ahead, do a cache rebuild, as you do with most Drupal stuff, refresh, we should see a large image. Perfect. All right. Well, it's getting there. Look at it. Coming along nicely. All right, perfect. Now what we need to do is add in a few more items. And this one I'm going to type in because I feel like I want to be one of those JavaScript videos where they type a lot of stuff. All right, div plus, what I'm going to do is type in, what is it? Carousel caption. Oh, PHP Storm is cool. None. And then make that a block element. All right, so what we need to do now is put in a 5 content. Then this will be field title. And then this one will be paragraph. And let's change this to caption. All right. And finally, what you also want to make sure, as I mentioned before, don't forget your cache tags. Don't forget your cache tags. I'm saving you hours and hours of work, trust me. Make sure you put in, without field title, field caption, and, can you guess it? Field image. If you guessed field image, you're correct. All right, cool. That is looking good. Come along in here, refresh, and now it is looking pretty cool. Come along nicely. Well, I think that's pretty much it. It is. There we go. And so far, we're just over an hour in. Cool. All right. Now, if we... a local one up? No. The proxy up? No, it's not. Anyway, if we now come along in here and refresh, let's refresh this. You can see it's looking pretty good. Wait a minute. What are those buttons up the top there? We are not done. I feel like we're missing something here. What are these buttons? Let's go back to carousel. Close this. Scroll up. And of course, remove these indicators. They shouldn't be there. Come down here. Refresh. What are these? Let's chuck that back in. I feel like I'm missing something. Yes, I am. That should be indicator. Okay. Do that again one last time. There we go. All right, perfect. All right. So this is looking a lot nicer. Come along in here and we can configure a few more things. Looking good. So far, so good. It is looking like a proper carousel. Wait, no, sorry. Come along in here and edit. It's getting a bit late here, but I do want to finish off this live stream. Okay. So you can see here, we can come over here and edit it. Okay. At this point, we've added this block in just through the block layout system. Let's now test it through the actual layout builder, because things, and I'm going to talk a bit while I have a sip of water, because things work a little differently in the layout builder world, as you will soon see, especially with templates. Long story short, it loads up different templates. So instead of there being a block, block content -- carousel, it's going to use an inline block template type. It'll all make sense once I show you. And that's why we created a carousel component, so we can easily just use it in other templates. All right. Really should have made a coffee, but it is a bit late here. Next time I'll probably make a decaf coffee. That will keep me up. More of a placebo, really. Let's be honest. All right. So let's go ahead and implement Layout Builder. First thing you want to do is, well, let's clean up our templates. Sorry. Our tabs. Go into Extend and search for Layout Builder. Click on Install. Give it a second or two. And then go to Structure. And at this point, we've just installed it. You need to configure it on an actual content type. So go to Structure, Content Types. And then go on Manage Display on a content type. I'll do it on Basic Page. Enable Full Content. I like that to be the main view mode. Come along here and click on Use Layout Builder. And let's also allow each content item to have its own customized layout. Essentially what that means is that you can then go ahead and customize it on a per node basis. So then it becomes kind of like a page builder. All right. Now, if you click on Manage Layouts, you will see that this appears here because that's added into, let's just remove that block. Now, removing a block isn't going to delete the block. It's just going to remove the placement of the block. So the fact that it is in the header region, that's all what it's going to do. It's just going to simply remove it. So you can go ahead and remove it. And this is what Layout Builder looks like. Okay, you can come along in here. You can organize a bunch of fields. You can specify, okay, a field goes into this section. So just a quick overview of Layout Builder. I do think I've got a video on it. Maybe I need to do an updated video. I don't know. It's been a while. So essentially Layout Builder replaces, so if we go back, let's go back all the way. Layout Builder is essentially planning to replace this manage display page where you add all these formatters into these particular sections right here. So you can see here, you can just move body and links up and down. And there are other modules you can use, such as Display Suite, which I personally do like, but I feel like Layout Builder is now in the process of replacing that. Because I was looking at a previous video, now just a bit of a tangent. I was looking at a previous video that I did with Bootstrap and Layout Builder, and there was just so much stuff you can do with Display Suite. Essentially, you could use it as like a no-code system because you can have full control over the markup and also which template is getting used without actually overriding templates. You can simply select and say, I want this field template to be reset so that you don't have any extra, markup around it. It was awesome. Maybe I will do a video about, Drupal's true no-code platform. Because as you can see in this video, this is, I wouldn't say this is low code. There's a lot of code involved, and there will be more code involved, but it's a nice, clean way of doing things through templates. Anyway, Layout Builder, as I was saying, is the plan for Layout Builder is to get rid of, or I would assume, to eventually replace Manage Display. So you can see here, come to Manage Display, you get a nice little UI section. And so everything's broken up into sections. The section is the layout. So you can have multiple layouts essentially, boom, 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 on top of each other. You can come along in here, you can add a section in, and then you click on block, and then you add a block into the section. You can click on create. You can then come along in here and click on carousel, and then we have our carousel items right here. Now, you may notice that the look and feel of this system tray, that's what it's called, isn't optimal. And this has kind of been the problem with Layout Builder. Now, there are a bunch of modules you can install to kind of fix this up. And I'm not going to cover them all, and I will cover them in possibly a future video. But if you search for in Google Layout Builder Drupal best modules to use, there is a whole list of them. Now, one module I do want to install, which just makes this process a lot easier, is called Modal Iframes, or Iframes Modal, got the exact name of it, which just loads everything up through a nice little modal pop-up so that you can control things a lot easier than just, coming through here. Because as you can see here, yeah, the user experience isn't optimal. Things are still light years ahead of what they used to be, don't get me wrong. And I do love Layout Builder for a lot of stuff, but this stuff, yeah, isn't optimal. So what we're going to do is, let me grab that actual, Layout Builder iframe modal. I'll copy that across here and have a quick look at it. Now, there is Layout Builder Modal and Layout Builder Iframe Modal. Modal didn't quite work for me. It's been recommended. I've talked to people, I've talked to friends about it, and they have recommended to use Modal, but I just couldn't get it to work. Maybe I wasn't implementing things wrong. Maybe I was implementing things wrong. But also, I do kind of cap things at like 10 minutes. If I can't figure it out in 10 minutes, then it's not going to go in the video. That's the way I kind of do things. But this one has a decent amount of installs. It's got a stable release. It's for Drupal 10. It is a go. Because that's one thing I've also noticed. There was a module that I was looking at, and I just couldn't get it working for Drupal 10. And so let's copy this across and install it. And this module is just a set and forget. So you just enable it, clear the cache as usual, and forget it. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. Drush, CR, done, brilliant. Come along in here. Let's refresh this page. It's going to say nothing's save changes, which is fine. You can still see our section up the top here. Come along in here, click on that. And then now we get a nice modal pop-up. Of course, you could probably fix this stuff up as well. But hey, that's just basic CSS. It's not that hard to fix up, but it's a much better experience dealing with this type of stuff, especially if you have nested paragraphs. In nested paragraphs, you get this nice little, well, that's like Inception, a modal within a modal. Brilliant. I actually watched Inception again for like the first time in about 10 years. I watched it on a plane back to Australia, and yeah, pretty good movie. Anyway, all right, let's now go ahead and implement a carousel in an actual layout. All right, oof, got a question. Something about markdown. All right, something about a markdown. Even Drupal can use markdown. Yeah, well, I don't know how. I don't know how you use. There's just a question in the chat about using markdown. It's the new markdown editor. It's a new type of markdown editor. Yeah, I mean, you could use markdown for it if you wanted to. But I'm not sure how you would implement markdown with a layout builder. All right, let's go ahead and implement this stuff. So I'll call this one layout builder carousel. And what we're going to do, let me see what images I've got. Image 1, let me upload another image. All right, image 1, I've got these great images which I've worked on. All right, you can still see a bit of styling has to be fixed up, but that's all right. 1, caption, and last but not least, 2. Call this one that. Yep, image 2. Select it. 2, and then we have image 2. Caption. There we go. Add to block. It's added in. And then we click on save. Oh, actually, let's forget that. All right, let's save that. That wasn't the right thing to do. Let's go ahead here and create a test carousel page. Test carousel page. Because what I want to do is override it for the actual specific node. Come along in here, add a section, add that in, add a block. But luckily for us, it should be a lot quicker to add the images because images are already there. So another benefit of using the media module. Sorry, one caption and another one. 2 and caption. All right, done all that. Add the block in. You can already see that it doesn't quite look right. Anyway, you'll see. Save that, and it is not working. We can go ahead. I'll come along in here and add in our existing carousel that we've already created. You'll see here it is working. And another thing that I did mention, it's important to keep those block that block markup in the template because then it automatically adds in these borders and things like that, and you can click and drag. That's important. Click on Save Layout. You can see that doesn't work, but this one does. So why is that? Well, the reason for that is a different template is used if you use inline block. So if I come along here and select my actual block, you'll see that we are using the block content carousel template, which is the one we implemented. Okay, so that is correct. That's working as it's meant to work. If we go up to the other one, block, where is it? Field carousel. No. Where is it? Block content. You will see that it is using just the normal block template. And if you look at the suggestions, there's only inline block, not content block or block content, because inline blocks are different block types. Even though it's still you can still select another block type. It's essentially a derivative of a block type. So what we need to do is we need to copy this. Well, actually, let's just copy this. We don't need to create a new one. What we can do, simply come in here and we can duplicate this. What is it? It is inline block. Inline block. Now, you could create a separate component that then implements all of this stuff so you don't have to copy the same thing over and over again. That you can do on your website. But for me, just to get this over the line, I'm just going to do this. Now, if we come along in here, clear the cache, refresh, we should see 2 carousels now. And they work independently, which is the most important thing. All right, so that, I believe, is the carousel done. Just having a quick look to see if there's any other things. The next thing we can quickly do, let's take a look. We have, all right, now let's implement the accordion. Because if we take a look at where is, let me just grab. Now, hopefully the accordion is going to be a little quicker. We take a look in here, go all the way down. We do have an accordion. We do, I promise. Here we go. Here it is. All right, cool. let's go ahead and implement this accordion. So if we scroll well, let me, oh, I don't need that. Let me just, all right. So what we need to do is create two paragraph types. One is called accordion item, and the other one is called an accordion. So then the accordion will have the accordion items inside. So let's go ahead and implement those. So go to structure, paragraph types, and I'll call this one, well, let's create the accordion item first. And I'll try and get through this pretty quickly, but no, let's reuse a field. Make it required. So we're reusing the existing title field, and we will use a formatted long for our description. Yep. All right. And let's make that required. All right. So that is looking good. Now, the other thing we need to do is create an actual accordion paragraph type. Come along in here, create an accordion. And this one should just have an accordion items paragraph type. For this one, accordion items. And let's just select an accordion item. That's it. We don't want any other ones. Perfect. All right. The other thing we'll do is go into content types and add in a paragraph to our basic page. So we can add the accordion items. Now, of course, you can add these accordions to block types if you want. That's up to you, but I'll just add it here. For this one, paragraphs. And then select accordion. That's it. I think let's just remove the default. So you have to actually select it and keep that as closed. All right, just to kind of keep things nice and nimble in the form. All right, so if we come along in here, accordion page, create an accordion item 1. We can just chuck in a whole bunch of stuff. All right, make it bold as well. Accordion item 2. Chuck in a bunch of markup. And last but not, what did I do? Oh, no, pushed the wrong one. Sorry. Oh, there's no underline there. That's why it doesn't work. Anyway, last but not least, put in item 3. Give it a bit of styling. And this one I will link off to the Google. All right, just so I've got a bit of styling in there. All right, looking good, looking good. Save it. And you can see here our accordion. Now, the first thing we need to do is fix up the layout because it is not being displayed. So go into here, manage display, full content, manage form display. And what we need to do, add in paragraphs. Leave that as it is. Perfect. And sometimes these previews can be a bit annoying. What I do recommend is that you click on uncheck show content preview, and then you can easily just move around. It's much easier. All right, so that is there. All right, now if we go to our accordion page, we should see our accordion. All right, we can just see the markup, but now things start to get fun. This is where we need to implement some templates. Now I need to remember how to do all of this as well. All right, so I think we are doing this all in one template. So let's go ahead and override the, yes, we'll need to override the paragraph template. And this will be for our accordion. Accordion. Did I spell that correct? Yes. All right, awesome. Let me just remove all this stuff. And if I'm just bringing things up, just give me 1 second. All right, things look good. Things look good. All right, so what we're going to do is within content. All right, cool. Let's add in our actual accordion. And so that'll be right here. And what I want to do, well, other thing I want to do here is to make sure that we're not displaying this without, what is it? Field accordion items. All right. So right now we're simply wrapping everything with an accordion div. Fine. And what we need to do is add in an accordion item. So each accordion item. So let's just put in, oh no, we need to chuck in a for each actually. The next thing is for each. So this one's end all. Then div dot accordion item. And let's put in an H2. Paste that stuff in. And what we have here is that it is looping through our actual accordion items right here. So these are our paragraphs. It is looping through them and then simply loading up, just loading everything up. The values, it's adding in the entity ID, fine. And then with the actual body, what we want to do is add in right here. And the actual body part is then loaded up through here. And we're doing a few stuff here, like such as showing if it's the first item. About it, paragraphs, yep, item, header. And the other important thing is with the actual description, because the description is a formatted text field, we do want to make sure that it's processed using the correct formatter. So we're passing it through this processed text and everything's getting formatted correctly. So then I do believe that's kind of it. So now if I come in here, refresh the moment of truth, it is actually working. Pretty cool. And this is now absolutely working. So let's have a quick look through all of this again. Come along in here. So we have our templates. We have overridden our actual accordion template here. And then we have simply followed the same markup that Bootstrap requires. So most important is accordion. Then we have our accordion item. Then we have a header, which is an H2. And we just need to put in a bit of twig on the loop to know that, okay, this one means that if it's not first, then add in a collapsed, because the first one is always displayed. You could add in extra checkboxes and things like that to say, you know, open the third one by default. And you could easily do that. You could put a checkbox on the paragraph and then do a bit of like twig magic and do all of that. But I just want to keep this simple. Then you come along in here and that's pretty much it. So in this example, we're not actually loading up the accordion item paragraph. We're just grabbing it directly from the actual accordion paragraph. So that's just another thing to be aware of. You don't have to actually load up absolutely everything, but it can be done. But again, you know, this is just one way of doing things. And the good thing is that if you want to add an accordion to a block type, well, you can just create an accordion block type and then just add a paragraph field to it and then just chuck in this paragraph. So that's a good thing about using a paragraph. And then if we take a look here, you can see it is looking pretty good. And if we refresh, it should open up the first one by default and everything is rendered. Great. All right. Now the last thing I want to show you is how to implement a custom grid using views. Now this one's not going to require any custom code, well, no HTML code. Well, it's going to require classes, but not much HTML. But what I want to do is first of all, generate a bunch of test articles because it just makes life a lot easier. So the first thing we'll do is go ahead and download Composer require Drupal. No, sorry, not Drush. Drupal/Devel. There we go. Let's go right in develop. Devel. Make sure that's all coming in. And then we'll go to extend and search for Devel generate. There we go. That's exactly what I want. Let that install. And we'll go to configuration. And where is it? Somewhere. Devel generate. Here we go. Generate content. Find that eventually. And let's go ahead and generate, I don't know, 20 pieces of content. That's all we need. And click on generate. It's just going to go ahead and, oh, that was quick. Normally takes ages. Anyway, and this content is fairly simple. All I want is just content and articles just to build out the view because it makes life a lot easier when you have proper content. Well, not, fake content, if you know what I mean. All right, let's go ahead now and create the view. So if we go to structure, views, and we'll call this one latest articles. And I'll just implement articles, block. Let's just leave that as it is for now. And what we want to do is let's add in a few items. So we have the article title. Let's add in the image. Okay, so that's going to be, let's make it wide. And let's also add in a body. But what we'll do is truncate it. No, well, let's leave it as value. Actually, what am I doing? No, wrong section. Click on add. Type in body. And then select trimmed, and let's trim it down to say 200. And if we scroll down, we can see our articles. Okay, it's looking good. Let's trim. Oh, maybe we need to, well, we will adjust the image styles later. Move that up the top there. Actually adjust this down to say 420 by 420. Yeah, all right, that's better. All right. And now what we need to do is adjust the grid. Because if we go to Bootstrap grids, grid system, newer, not that one. Why is that one appearing? One, grid options, grids. All right, what I want to implement is just like the basics here, okay? You can go ahead and implement col large 2 and things like that, but I just want it to automatically figure out. So I want it to be 2 per column. So 2 per column, and then yeah, only 2 getting displayed. If we go back into our view, go to format, select grid. And what you want to do is pretty much uncheck everything here and change this number of columns to 2. And then the custom column class should be col, and the custom row class should be, can you guess it? Row. And then click on apply, and then click on save, okay? And let's now add this to an actual page. So what I'll do is go here. Let's create a home page. I'll create a home page. Go to configuration. Oh, actually, what was that? What was that node ID? 86, 20. Come along in here, /26. All right. Now, if we go to the home page, we have a basic home page, an empty page which says home. And then let's add a column here. Click on block, search for article, latest articles. And let's display the 6 amount. And if we show preview, we should see a preview. All right, you can see things are kind of working. And if I implement this stuff, you can see that we have a row and then we have both columns. All right, cool. And then if I resize, should just automatically resize. Well, we need to adjust it essentially. But yeah, you can see it just resizes nicely. And what we could potentially do, let's fix up these image styles. Because I don't like the fact that they're all different sizes. If the images were the same, that'd be fine, but they're not. Come along in here. Let's go to image style, article image. And let's do scale and crop. What is that? 480? No. 1024. No. What is it? 1080. 920. No. 20. No, was it 1080 by 720? I want it to be 720p resolution. It's, yeah. Oh no. 1280. No. Yeah. 1280 by 720. I'll get there eventually. I apologize. All right. I essentially want it to be 16 by 9 because that just makes things look a lot nicer. Come along in here. Let's reload. Can I get it to the view? Cool, I can. Change this image. Change it to article. Click on apply. Click on save, and there we go. It's looking a bit nicer now, looking a bit consistent. All right, now what can we do? Let's fix this up, okay? Because if you take a look here and you resize it, it's forever just, you want it to eventually just, you know, look nice. All right, cool. So let's take a look at this. So if we, all right, I'm not 100% sure. So 12, 12, 12. So Bootstrap grid, as noted, each breakpoint has its own container. All right. So I just need to, and 4. So if I was to put in a 2, 2, one of these ones, honestly. This is where it comes down to just having to play with it, honestly. 12, is that it? No, that's going to display it as 12. Onwards. No, I want it to be small when it's 12. No, when it's on mobile, I want it down to be no, actually MD. All right, let's try that. And then, oh, what is it? 12. That does. Let's see. All right, cool. Gone up like that, gone up like that, go, and then down like that. All right, perfect. Cool. All right, that's exactly what I want. So when it's on mobile, it is like a single column. So 12 12 grid wide. When it's from medium and up, it's going to be 2 column wide. Perfect. That's exactly what I want. All right. Okay, so that is how you implement the grid system in views. And as you can see, you can just go in there, adjust things accordingly, and just build out whatever you want. And it is a pretty good system. All right. Now, a few things I want to cover before we finish up, because that's pretty much it for this video. There is an actual Radix, what is it? Drupal Radix layout. Now this, layouts. Now this one I tried to get working, but it didn't want to install because for some reason I just couldn't get it working on Drupal 10 site. You can see here that when I was downloading it using Composer, it just wouldn't allow me to install it because of dependency issues. So these are actual layouts that you could implement yourself, well, actual layouts that work with Radix, and then you have all of these options. So that's something to look at once these patches get committed. So that's just another thing to be aware of. I tried to use Composer to apply these patches, but it just was failing and I kind of gave up. So yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for being here for this live stream. You should see a link to a tutorial and also the GitHub repository for this site, and also time codes once they are updated. I'll probably do that I'll probably do that tomorrow. And also, if you want to learn more about Drupal and also other CMSs, just head over to webwash.net, and also leave a comment about other things that you want covered as well, because I do want to look at other Bootstrap themes as well, because I get asked so many times, you know, what Bootstrap theme do you recommend? Because there are a few of them. So that's kind of like my goal for the next month or so, just to go through all these Bootstrap themes and kind of implement and figure out which ones are the best ones. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Yeah, if you want to learn more about Drupal, just head over to webwash.net. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you so much. I'll catch you next time. All right, that is it. Thanks all for watching.